This is going to be a winter scene. I'm painting it from a reference photograph, of course. But I remember the temperature. It was something like -8, -10 degrees. And the entire frozen scenario. The main thing was the palette is very limited here. There was a very interesting sunlight and shadows, but the colors were mostly grey and neutrals or whatever shades of grey. But I plan to push the colors and make them little more interesting. Basically, push the grey towards a bluer side, bluish side. And something like the change in temperature of blue, which is in my mind, which is going to be a major, not center of attraction, but a design strategy, I would say. This is the Prussian blue, the other one is the ultramarine, and a little cobalt also I plan to use. This is more ultramarine. Now the subject is simple in terms of complicatedness. It is just one house, a roof house, and the trees around it, a little road going towards it. But the shapes of light and shadows, which are the design elements here. No object from the actual reality, but it's the light and shade. This is more of the Prussian which I'm talking about, which is a cooler, relatively cooler blue. And the bottom portion, I plan to do it in a slightly warmer area. These are the trees of the forest which was seen behind. Coming back to the foreground. This is obviously a pure ultramarine which doesn't look very natural. But that's the whole idea. I want to see how much really can I push the color and yet manage to keep a realistic look of the painting. To make it slightly warmer, I'm adding little crimson to it, giving it a little violetish look. And the white roof, the snow on the white roof, that portion, and there is a patch of sunlight in the background. They are the only white shapes. So this is very simple in terms of composition, simple shapes, sticking to the basic simple shapes. The fireplace and little red of roof which is seen. These are the warmer accents of the painting, actually in the central area almost. I'm sticking the background trees to keep them. I'm trying to keep them in one singular shapes, but if you notice, the colors and the tones are in transition, but the shape, outer shape, is one single shape. Turning a little more cooler. Connecting the top darker portion with the bottom portion so that the white is not just a monotonous one single shape, breaking that shape into smaller shapes. Watercolor is very subtractive in nature, so you have to be really careful about the areas which are not being painted. If we try to keep our attention on the shape which is not being painted, then it becomes easy to paint around that shape. So in my mind, I am visualizing a white shape and I am just painting the shape around it. And this works. I want to increase the tone of the house. This is the same blue, which ultramarine blue, but there is a slight variation in tone between the ground and the vertical face of the house. Separate them from each other. These are the trees in the foreground, which I'm really careful. Careful in the sense, I just want to be sure where the line is crossing the one in the background. So wherever there is a formed line of the roof, and the vertical growing tree crosses that shouldn't be in a point where what I mean is at the end of the roof you see a point, The tree, if crosses at the same point, then it creates a confusion. That's why the tree has to be on the little left or little right, where there is a transition in the background shape. Again, too sharp edges, I don't like them many a times. That's why I just diffuse them at places. Now mostly the rigger work. Painting is like you are building your own reality. Okay, this is the scene from which I have painted a landscape, painted this landscape. Everything is there. But whenever I paint, I try to think that I am creating my own reality, so that I am not sticking to everything that is seen, but I am more concerned about what I want to see. So there might be a tree, there might not be a tree. I might shift the objects from where they actually are. But this is more about what I want to see, and which really makes my composition work. That's what I'm concerned about. Not depicting every single detail over there. The textural look is important here. So your details are what your details are contributing. They're contributing the interest and the textural look in the painting. I mean, no object in the painting is for the sake of its own. Every object is for the sake of the whole painting. So there are large areas, smaller details, but all of them have to be cohesive to create one unified statement. And if you keep this idea in mind, it helps. This is the tricky area of the painting, the foreground. There are perspective lines which are very acute, and they are going to really dominate the eye. I mean, they lead the eye in the perspective. But I don't want them to be too acute as they actually are. I'm trying to diffuse them a little. one side is blur, one side is sharp. There always has to be a balance between the lines in the painting and the larger shapes. The lines really try to direct the eye. So you have to be really careful where your sharp lines are coming. Now if you notice, this painting is like very large simplified shapes and a superimposed brushwork over it. So two elements, the background of the larger shapes and the line work or the brushwork which I'm talking about, which is giving the definition to the whole thing, and the balance between the larger shapes, the tones and the lines is what is making this painting work. Architectural details are always interesting. I mean, I love to paint these details, but then constantly I have to remind myself that details are not for the sake of detail, they are for the sake of entire painting. I'm just pondering over the entire painting, adding little stroke here, little line there, and sometime later, this is the white ink pen which I'm using. Instead of using the gouache white, this pen these days I find it very handy. It creates sharp white lines and they don't look like unnatural over there, and they create very sharp white lines. A little accent. I don't really want to work more with it, but few lines here and there. No, I was not too happy with the sky. I just want to darken the tone of the sky. See, after the entire painting is done, then you realize sometimes there's a little tones adjustment. Fortunately, a very absorbent paper. This is one of the best watercolor paper, and it can take my second wash easily. Now again making it straight. Now there is too much of transition in the sky, a little halo. Just let's try to reduce it a bit. Yeah, that's it. Now it makes the sharp white of the snow much brighter. One of the best way that you should be stopping now is just sign it off and don't worry.